Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying all day. So far in every season of the CDL, at least one time we have a massive controversial day such as today. Drama from start to finish, replay cheese, referee decision-making controversy and drama. The Boston vs OpTic series had it all. A banger series, some records were broken, controversial in many different ways with big storylines to dive into, but the big one being what is still going on with the CDL. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. This man was back in action today. I thought this was going to be the big storyline of the day, but if anything, it was rather overshadowed. This, of course, is Shawnee, player for several years in the CWL into the CDL era, kind of most well known really for being an absolute monster on Ramaza, especially Search and Destroy here on this construction building, as he was known for on his time on London at the time. But today it was confirmed Shawnee was back for a brief period. Now, he played competitively in the Pro League, of course, until I think maybe his last season really was, I think Cold War, he was in the league briefly on that London team, actually, but maybe for quite some time. Then he was out of the league, has been in Challengers on the Boston Academy for the last couple of seasons. That came to an end earlier this year. I'm pretty sure he played at the Boston Challengers Open, and after that, shortly afterwards, I believe he called it a day. And of course, Shawnee was now coaching the team, stepped into that role. Beans, though, out of the roster. Now, this is confusing. I don't know the full story on this. We hear from Beans in a second, as we'll see. Beans will be unavailable for today's match due to a back injury. We hope to have him back on Sunday. So this is kind of wild. We don't often see injuries, on this kind of level that prevent a player from competing. It's not regular sports, right? Like, you would think that anything that would prevent a player playing COD has got to be pretty damn serious because, you're sitting on your chair. Back injuries can be really bad if it's a bad thing. I don't know, obviously, what's happening to Beans right now. As Beans says, apologies to the team. I absolutely promise you, and this is the thing with many competitors, like, if there was any way he felt he could play, he would. I mean, it's so difficult to get competitors to voluntarily step away, especially because such a crucial moment for Boston, right? They've been working hard. To be honest, the series they needed to win, they've already played, I would say. Like, let's be real. Their World Championship qualification chances now are so muddied because they lost Game 5s they shouldn't have lost. And this series they were always expected to lose, although they arguably could have won and maybe should have won, depending on the way you look at it. And obviously if Beans was there, could have been a different story. So Beans wanted to play, but he couldn't. And as he says, heading to the emergency room shortly, hoping I'm going to be able to play Sunday. So yeah, wishing the best for Beans. That is highly unfortunate. And as Den says, wishing Ben a speedy recovery. On a game-related note, can't wait to see Sean steer the guys in the matchup, and honestly I thought he did a stellar job. Shawnee has always to me been a player who watching his POV has always been massively impressive. Shawnee's a bit of an enigma to me because whenever I watch his play, even when he was competing, he would always look like he was fine. If you watch his POV, it's like, damn, this guy's got nice gunny, good decision making, good comms, and then look at the scoreboard and he's got 0.9 and I'm like, how does this add up? This guy feels more impactful than his numbers suggest, but I always think he's been a solid player and was honestly a very good player for the European scene in general, certainly in World War II and stuff like that on that Unilad team that you guys may remember. We were talking about this on the Dope Check pre-show today about the Doug sent to Martin piece, right? Because, we know how it goes with Doug. There's talk about him shadow GMing, pulling the strings behind the scenes of the organization, making the decision on the Snoopy / Asim drama and situation. And then all of a sudden, Beans has gone, Shawnee is in. It's like, damn, could Doug not have covered instead? I mean, obviously, Shawnee has experience competing very recently this year, but Doug also could have been in the same boat. So that would have been quite something to see Doug in. And maybe that's next up, right? Shawnee may be impressed today. If Beans can't come back in, then maybe Doug steps in, plants some bombs. But before we get to the drama there, Miami versus the Subliners, this was, I thought, an interesting series on paper. And I feel like it would have been had Heretics actually closed out Game 1, because they had their chances to do so. They were honestly very close to winning Game 1, but Kismet made a big play towards the end to get them the victory, and after that, the Subliners were comfortable. Miami are an interesting team. You never really know what you're going to get from Miami, I think. Well, you know what you're going to get in some way, but in moment to moment, you never know whether they're going to look like unbelievable teamwork. Wow, these guys are insane. Some of the best teamwork you're going to see in the game. Or are they completely lost? They flip-flop between the two, not even series to series. Literally rotation to rotation. You can be watching a different Miami team, it feels like. ReeaL, by the way, was cooking here. Game 1, he almost put the team on his back. But fortunately for New York, even if they might be still pretty shambolic in hardpoint, they do have HyDra, and that does go quite a long way, because HyDra in this position popped a 3-piece and closed out the game on 39 kills. So that's just how it goes sometimes. And if you're Miami, you've got to put your hand up and say, you know what, fair play. We tried, we gave it a good go, but HyDra did HyDra things and basically won them the map multiple times. So, you know, it is what it is. To be fair to Sib, despite a difficult first hardpoint, did turn it around and played very well in the search and destroy, and they completely crushed them on the control. So I think for Miami, they felt like game one was their chance. It's known that Subliners hardpoint is their weakest mode, where they are most vulnerable. To be honest though, Surge beat Subliners on this invasion control the other day. So, you know, maybe you wouldn't be massively surprised that you see them playing them on this, but they completely slammed them. So this was game over very swiftly indeed. And if I had to predict which series was going to be the closest today, I'd have probably said this one, but of course it wasn't. And, well, we have two other series to discuss. ReeaL as well, taking the piss really out of what perceived to be Miami using sound EQ. That is the theory, that Miami have got the headsets cranked up to the maximum with sound EQ on as well. And ReeaL is basically saying, yeah, they're using it. The question was, are New York using it as well? Is it possible that New York Subliners turn it on because they know or they believe that Miami are using it? Possibly, but yeah, I don't know if anyone's going to say anything on that, because if you're Subliners, you know, do you want to stoop down to that level, as it were? Or, you know, is that still considered cheating? I don't know. At the end of the day, they won the series comfortably, and these were the overall numbers, and it was a clean red carpet, and HyDra had a 1.5, so not that much more to say, to be honest, on that. Vikul had a bit of a stinker. Anything in the 0.5s is always going to be pretty ugly. But this is when the drama emerges. Shawnee comes into the team, they start the game one, and OpTic are getting slammed. Like, this was maybe not even at this point a surprise, because OpTic have had multiple slow starts this season to hardpoint games, specifically against FaZe actually, but Boston, this was a must-win, as have their last series been. And OpTic, as other teams are, can be vulnerable to going into series like this and feeling like, well, you know, we're probably going to win anyway, especially with a sub. They come in slow, they can get caught off guard. So they lose the first rotation heavily, then they get broken on the P3 roto, they get no time on P4, and then they lose the roto to P5. So it was an absolute shambles here. Snoopy was fine, Shawnee had a great start, Pentagrxm was double positive, like everything was working well, and then Kenny disappears from the game. Unclear whether he lagged out or whether he left, and it became quite clear that he left. He didn't lag out, he left because his game was heavily stuttering. So this is, as we see here, that, you know, from the OpTic Texas POV, here he is trying to run around on Crutchy, and his game is stuttering, lagging out, he can't move around. So, you know, I'll just share this with you guys again so you can make it very clear that Kenny was experiencing serious problems during this game one. This is online server-related cheese. It can happen on LAN as well, because nowadays it's not even true LAN, like they connect to a server still, but they're all in the same location, so it's kind of okay. But this is kind of how it goes. And, of course, the game ended up 100 points for Boston Breach, which is like, oh my god. They're up 100 to basically 0, 100 to like 110 to 10 or whatever it was. That is a situation where, by the rules, it might well be a full reset, although that doesn't necessarily seem fair from the Boston side. And Attach's like, oh, you know, Slasher, he saw they were doing well and preyed on their downfall somehow so that Boston wouldn't do so well anymore, and as Boston then say, rage quit down 100. So this is the controversy about this, because clearly there were issues there from Kenny's side, and the frustration was most certainly from OpTic that they felt like they hadn't got a fair shot at this, and I'll just share you guys Pred's explanation here, because the referees took a very long time to come up with an answer here. I thought that it should have been pretty clear cut, to be honest. Whatever the rulebook says on this instance, that's what you execute. But it seems like they, well, maybe played with the rules somewhat to do what seems to be more fair, which might be an understandable decision with discretion in play. But there is an argument that you should simply follow the rules in these circumstances. This is what Dashy, or this is what Priestahh has to say on the server situation. It became quite clear to OpTic before the series began there were going to be problems with the server when they did the test for the server. I'm not exactly sure what is causing these server issues, because you know, they're of course playing Boston from Texas, should be okay, but I don't know, maybe some sort of internet issues affecting those guys to find a better server to play on. They knew there were going to be issues with the server. The CDL said, you know, we're going to play on it anyway. They spawn and it doesn't work. All of a sudden, OpTic aren't so happy about that.
Okay, so basically what happened is before, like every time you load into a match, you do like a server testing. You know, you've been a part, you guys have played.
We've been a part,
so, yeah.
Yep.
So we always do server tests, right?
Yeah.
And you check if the server's good, playable. And during the server testing, like Ken was fully freezing, like to the point where his gun's not even showing up. Like, you know when you just freeze for like a solid like 15 seconds, no gun, nothing. And we recorded it. we sent it we recorded him freezing, and we're like, yo, like this server keeps lagging. Can we try another server? And the other server actually benefits them more. Like they play on a less ping, I think, and we play on a higher one. But it's just like we couldn't play because he's actually freezing. And then we're like, yo, it's gonna keep happening. Like, can we can we change the server? And basically, what happened is they just didn't do it. And we're like, and we're just like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen in the game. And yeah, and then we honestly got into the game and. Yeah.
So quite clear that Kenny was not playing in an entirely fair environment, although we did have this from Boston, as they say, AI is getting too real these days, because there were times where Kenny could play. I mean, look at Kenny here. He hits the drop shot, absolutely slams this guy, goes on to get another one as well. So it's not like Kenny's game was dusted, but he was clearly having issues, as we just saw. So therefore, they decide to hit the replay. The problem is, as Zed says, is this in the rules, actually? Because the rules usually say, and they have said, and we believe that they say, if you leave the game, you forfeit. That has been the rules basically forever, and it's, if you play game battles or anything, if you ever left the game, you were liable to get forfeited by the other team. Like, that happens so often. And this is what Zed says. Look, it's not about Kenny lagging. My team this year has played through a referee doing the dishes, as we saw earlier on, a fire alarm at Major 2. Both times we didn't leave because we were scared of getting forfeited by the rules. I don't care about the replay. I just want consistency in the ruling, right? And this is the problem with this, because if your game is broken and you don't leave, then the other team wins. And then it's like, well, do we replay the map now and you've just 100-point clubbed us? Or do you leave and say, well, technically I should be forfeited and lose, but actually this was unfair? There needs to be someone to make this clearer, because as a player, you kind of feel like you've got to play through, but then if you lose the map, it's pretty unlikely that they're going to replay it after the map has literally come to a conclusion. So as a player, you've got to make a decision. I think Kenny realised there was no way they were winning that map. So it made sense in Kenny's book probably just to leave and say, well, we want to hit a reset here. And the referee is, after consulting on this for 20-30 minutes, because I imagine Boston weren't happy. They were probably saying, look, the rules say this, and OpTic was saying, well, that's kind of unfair because Kenny was having problems, and we told you guys we were going to have problems, and you refused to change the server. The CDL were like, well, kind of between a bit of a rock and a hard place here. We've got to make a call. The call was full reset for map 1. So very controversial. Arguably the right decision, but I think that ideally you want the rules to be designed in a way that this isn't a problem. But after, of course, all of this happens, OpTic were kind of checked out. And you can understand why. That's why I don't want to read too much into OpTic's performance this series, although I do think it was somewhat concerning. We'll see how they play tomorrow against Gorillas. But Boston just did the same thing again. Like, I was honestly so impressed by this. The amount of times that we have seen, you never win the replay, right? Whenever a replay happens for whatever reason, it never goes your way. This time it went their way. Shawnee had a great map 1. OpTic got kind of put to bed here. Pred had 12 seconds. Again, Pred's playstyle was called into question this series. Just watching his arrow, what he was doing a lot of the time. The impact, of course, is always a question there. And yes, they win the game 1. The game 2, however, unfortunately for Boston, they still can't win a bloody search and destroy, can they, right? And they got kind of close. I mean, this is a 1 versus 1 here between Shotzzy and Priestahh. It was a good opportunity for Priestahh to win this one, but, Shotzzy catches him off guard, slides, hits the snapper, and that's a 4-3 advantage. Obviously, Boston themselves are saying, wow, we're 2-0 on the day because, won the game once. Now we've won it again. But, yeah, the series goes onwards. This was very impressive, I thought, from Boston winning this game 3 on the invasion control. Great moment here from Shawnee. And, gets enough job done to distract OpTic. They secure Boston the defense, and that's good enough to get them to round 5 victory. So OpTic had to bounce back from behind. Pentagrxm had a good map 3 here, so fair play to him. Pentagrxm has been, on the last couple of series, pretty okay in the respawns, but it's just his search and destroy again that's been letting him down lately, right? And to be fair, the game 4 was actually one of the matches of the year. This hardpoint was sensational. It looked like OpTic were going to win at the start. Boston made a big comeback. Snoopy had 37 frags at this point, and he absolutely blew those numbers out of the water by the end of the game. Sure, did Snoopy make some questionable plays towards the end of this map that arguably lost them the game? Arguably, yes. But at the same time, if it wasn't for Snoopy frying, you're not in this position, right? So this is the thing. I think Boston have made a good call, probably keeping Snoopy. I feel like a talent on that level, getting rid of him, would, in the long term, probably prove to be a mistake. But it's just the decisions they made around that. Like, he might not know the hardpoint rotations, or he might not be able to remember search and destroy strats, and that can be detrimental, according to what Slasher has had to say over the last couple of months. But he is very talented, It's a difficult one to weigh this up. And look, without him on the team, they probably don't come close to winning this map, to be fair. So the debate on Snoopy will certainly rage on, but the end of this game was crazy because OpTic looked like they were going to lose. They got the rotation in. They had their chances, Boston, to actually hold on to it. They got broken in the end. Couple of crucial kills. Shotzzy ended up with 36, Snoopy on 42. That's enough for a game 5. And Boston game 5, well, you know what's happening. They're about to lose. They did make it competitive and somewhat interesting. Dashy had a nice little 1 versus 2 here actually versus Snoopy and Priestahh. Gets the first kill here on, I think it was on Snoopy, or it's actually on Priestahh, isn't it? Then he finds himself in a 1v1 against Snoopy. Nice play he makes here, Dashy, because only a few seconds left. Snoopy has to chase him, and Dashy predicts that he's probably going to be chasing, and therefore he gets the ReeaL. Shawnee, though, before we look at this one, very nice little 1 versus 1 clutch here against Pred. Pred had a 1v2 situation, gets the first kill on Snoopy. Shawnee got to hold his own in a 1 versus 1 scenario against Pred, comes around the corner, guns him, wins the rounds, but in the end it's not enough, and OpTic, clean out and get the job done. It wasn't clean, wasn't an impressive series from OpTic at all. They were heavily checked out, but they get the job done, and as Kenny says, that's on me. Mentally super duper checked. Was a remarkable series. The way that was handled was effing terrible, says Kenny. So big criticism from the OpTic side on the way that situation was handled. Understandably so. I don't think anyone was happy with the resolution of that, and it certainly didn't help anyone in the series. And as Shotzzy says, felt like it wasn't even a real game. Karma goes on as well to say that tried everything in the book to prevent that first map from happening, right? So this is the point. I think OpTic knew that it was going to be problematic. They were going to have server problems. They were going to have issues such as Kenny had. That the CDL referee said, no, we're going to stick with it. They had problems. And then it's like, well, are you surprised at the actual outcome there? The numbers, though, on the series are kind of crazy, right? Like, it was very interesting to watch, if not an especially good series in terms of fundamental COD. Kenny had a bit of a rough one. He looked checked out the entire time, I'm not going to lie. Which I wouldn't say is concerning as long as they play better tomorrow, which they, I think, will need to against the Los Angeles Grillers. Shawnee, again, it's like, he looks great. He drops 18k damage as well as at 0.8. Like, it just confuses me, Shawnee, how he ends up with these numbers. But I think he played very well, given the situation. And Boston, ever so close. But another 2 search and destroy L's in the book. Would that have happened with Beans? I guess, we'll never really know. Dashy, by the way, set the damage record at 22,000. Snoopy as well, 115 kills. That ties the record for kills in a series this season with Gwyn at 115, obviously. The final series of the day, by the way, we did see this stat real quick here from Turtle, that FaZe are currently on, before this series, a 12 map win streak against Legion. And, well, they quickly made that 15. This wasn't, maybe as absolutely crushing as I thought it might be in the hard points, but the rest of the series basically went as expected. 250 to 195-ish here on the Vista. Simp had 34. Game 2 was dominance. At this point, Simp was crushing it. aBeZy ended up with 0 kills as well. Here he is with another donut. I think I saw a crazy stat. I'm not sure if this is true, but aBeZy has as many donuts this season as he has map wins in Search and Destroy. So, yeah, just let that one sink in. And that actually sounds like it could be true to me because he was not good on, Boston Search and Destroy when he joined those guys. And the series is very quickly over. The damage numbers here for aBeZy and Geo are not right for the control because they rage quit the control, so we didn't get the damage stats. So, that's on them for making themselves look even worse. But, yeah, that was pretty brutal. Very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.